All right, good. Just want to make sure.
There you go. There you go. How you doing, Nick?
Doing pretty good. It's been quite a while since I've used Facebook Live, so it's funny. Even though it's facing fine on your side, on my side, I'm still on the side.
Oh,
Yeah, I can
well,
only do so much.
well, I can tell you're the right side up, which
All
is the
right,
way you
good,
should.
good. As long as it is from your side, that's all that matters.
Listen, thanks for doing this spur of the moment. But before we get into this, I want to know if you will be available maybe sometime tomorrow night. It's a holiday here. It's Good Friday tomorrow. So I'm going to be around tomorrow. But what I would like to do is have a recorded conversation that I can air on my radio program this weekend. So we'll do this, and sometime before Sunday, if we can have a quick 45-minute conversation, we'll record something to get it up on the radio program. Basically talking about what we're going to talk about right now. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. As far as I know, because it will also be Good Friday for us too.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
yeah, as far as I know, I don't have anything going on for tomorrow night, so I will be available.
Okay, cool. Thanks for doing this. Very, very spur of the moment. Like I was telling the audience here a few moments ago, you and I have had many conversations. I don't think you've ever been on the radio program, though. Actually, no, you were.
Yeah, it
You
was one time.
you did the Halloween show. You actually did a show on the actual 31st of October, and that one show that had like 33,000 listeners. So
I could not believe that when you said that there was 33,000. I think you actually told me when I had gotten back from, well, after I had my brain injuries a month later, in the when I was in the hospital, I think that was when you told me how many listeners had been. And I don't think that could have came at a more perfect timing, following my recovery. So that really meant a lot to me when you told me that.
let's start with that, and just to let people know how I base my talking points with Nick and all of my guests, whether it's here in the moment or on my radio show. I have literally gone through Nick's own social media, like his own Facebook post. So we're just going to be talking about things that Nick has already posted. So nothing is going to come as a surprise. We're not talking politics. This is just an opportunity for you to get to know Nick as the person and a little bit more about Nick, the paranormal investigator. And there's some things that Nick has posted just within the last little bit that have really interested me. So for me, it's just like the who, what, when, where, how, and why of Nick Mulae. If you have questions, Nick, can you see if people are making comments on your end?
Yes, what I actually did is, because unlike when we use StreamYard and what we're using now, I can't necessarily see the comments when we're doing like a split screen on Facebook. So what I did is, this is what I was just doing with the phone. Is I propped it up on the laptop screen in front of me because I was just doing another show just before I came on here. So I propped it up. I have the video of this show playing live but muted. That way I can see comments. So right now I can see Jeremy's watching. Good to see you. Hello, Robert, which if you don't know, Robert Whitemat, he's actually from Australia that's watching right now.
Nice. Okay.
Then Jill's here. Always appreciate the love and support. And Robert just said, how far will he run as the Minecraft fugitive? Because I play Minecraft nowadays with him and a few other show hosts.
Okay, well let's start with Minecraft. Well, I want to know, and this is just going to be fun stuff. I don't know if you have gone and seen the movie in the theater, but I'm really interested to know your reaction on the behavior of those that have gone to the theater, like this viral activity of like throwing popcorn and being loud and obnoxious and what are your thoughts on that? And are you one of those that has participated in that?
Well, first off, I just want to give a few more shout-outs. Joe's watching. Hey, Adrian. So we got quite a couple viewers watching right now. Jeremy's like, don't ask him about golf it. That's another game, too, that I played. Hey, Chanel. Geez, yeah, we're getting a lot of people watching. But anyways, I have actually not seen the Minecraft movie. It's been a long day for me today. I have not actually seen the Minecraft movie yet, but I've been really wanting to. And so I haven't really been able to participate in that just yet. But I definitely curious, but I know a few other people who have seen it, but I've had a lot of fun playing Minecraft. I mean, I remember like I was introduced to it about over a year ago, and prior to this, I didn't really think too much about Minecraft. I thought it was just nothing more than just you know, I thought it was just nothing more than a game for kids, basically. Like, I thought it was just a useless game. But now that I've been introduced to it and finding out that it's for everybody, I've had a lot of fun with it. But yes, it's true. I've also been kind of dubbed the Minecraft fugitive because we have this guy. He's not in the chat right now. His name's Tom Nally, aka Pickle Tom. I know he's watched some shows before, and and Robert will tell you this, by the way, because he's among one of those that I play with, where I basically end up messing things up in Minecraft, and particularly I ended up at one point was letting villagers in his house that he built, and now Tom, he wants to kill me in the game and imprison me in nothing but this wall of obsidian. So now currently I'm on the run to avoid being imprisoned in Obsidian Prison. And Tom's actually made, I'll have to send this to you because it's so damn funny. He just made this yesterday. He even made a little AI song about me. So I can't stop laughing every time I listen. It's awesome, but it's funny as hell. It's like that's like my theme song for Minecraft.
Oh, listen, that's this is the best way to start this show. So,
hey, Terry, Texas.
I want to ask you. I'm going to say the number must be high, but I always like to ask my guests whether we're doing radio or this here on a scale of 1 to 10 right now. Where's your mental health right now on a scale of 1 to 10, Nick?
As far as my mental health, I would definitely say it would probably be at a good 9 or 10 in this case, as far as I'm concerned.
You put a video out a little while ago. You were bowling in a wheelchair. I know that you injured your leg at the beginning of the month. How are you coming along with the healing process, if you don't mind?
It's actually been a lot more better. I'm still dealing with struggles, basically. And by the way, I mean, this was the leg that I injured, my left leg. So just a long story short, because not everybody knows all the details of it, but like I said, it was a work-related accident. We had this visit that was supposed to be coming within the next 2 days. The president of some company was supposed to be. So, when you have these visits, obviously, it drives everybody crazy, as you could very well imagine. So at one point, I had to go into a freezer to unpack a pallet, a load of ice cream. And while I was, for Robert doing better than me, he's walking again. Yeah. So while I was able to finish the load and put it all into the respective carts, I had to pick up and we're talking about one of those big pallets too, like they use at warehouses, the wooden ones, a big pallet.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was taking it, I had to push it, but I had to basically turn it around because there was no room for me in that area because that was where some of the carts were. And as I was turning it around, all of a sudden I lost my footing. I slipped and I fell right on my kneecap on the hard concrete floor.
Yikes.
And I also hit my elbow too, but fortunately it didn't take as much impact as my leg did. So obviously my elbow has healed. And, obviously when I fell, my first thought was, my God, I just broke my leg, didn't I? I was thankful that when I was able to grab onto some things and stand up, I thought, well, that's good. Because if I did break my leg, I wouldn't have been able to stand up at all. But for a few seconds there, that's when things were very, very scary because, you're in a freezer. And I just thought to myself, and I was by myself. So had it was broken and knowing that I was exposed to these freezing temperatures, it would have been obviously clear that I would have been in very serious trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I basically had to literally hop my way to get to the break room and just sit down. And but yeah, it took several days for it to recover. I mean, we went. I'll just throw this. It's funny to think of now, but at the time it wasn't. But after I left work, in fact, actually, I had an Uber take me home, which I got to give credit to the guy, because not only did he know that I was in pretty bad shape, he actually got out of the car when he dropped me off. He pulled up to my driveway, got out of the car, and helped me to the door. Pat gave me this pat on the back. I'm like, that guy deserves an extra tip for helping me. It was raining that day too. He didn't even care that it was heavily raining. So we went to the walk-in clinic, but we had to go to a different hospital, because when we got to the walk-in clinic, there were 2 sets of stairs that had to be taken. But that's not even the worst of it. They did have an elevator, but when I got to the elevator, there was a sign on it that said out of order. That was that classic example where I was like, oh, you gotta be effing kidding me. I was so angry that happened. So we got to the hospital. We did get the vast assortment of x-rays, check to see if anything was broken or misplaced. Thankfully there wasn't, but it just appeared that I just really damaged and bruised up the kneecap and the patella. Okay. So there was a chip that was discovered, but they did find out that may have been from something separate from before, but it's not an actual thread, or it's essentially just an extra piece of bone. I guess I didn't realize some people do live with chip bones, like as long as it doesn't pose an exact threat to like your walking or movement or something like that. But they are going to keep an eye on it. The only thing that they're concerned about is like if I couldn't straighten my leg or stand, like to the point where my leg got stuck as a result of that chip, that would require surgical removal. Something tells me probably years down the road, as I get older, it probably will eventually be removed. But for right now, it's not an issue as far as we're concerned.
Okay. Something else you mentioned on your social media, and someone I think made a comment about a mental wellness check for anyone. So if there's anyone out there, like, feel free to leave comments. If you're struggling, it's always good to talk about what's going on. You don't have to like empty out your whole life story, but if you are struggling, know that I am thinking about you as I think of all the people that are struggling. I want to talk about the Paracons. And I know recently, they've started up. It's an opportunity for paranormal investigators from all over the world, all over the region to get together. When you miss out on those, Nick, you say that you basically just avoid social media. What does that do to your mental wellness when you're not able to participate in those events that you want to be at?
For as far as like the mental reaction, I would say for it is it's I basically kind of go into a depression. That's the best way I could really describe it, because yes, I posted about it a few weeks ago. That was a Paracon that was happening called obviously the Lone Star Paracon that happened in Texas, and I was originally supposed to go to that. In fact, I had numerous investigators that were expecting me to go down, which not only would have been my first Paracon in Texas, that would have actually been my first time ever going to Texas overall. So when I wasn't able to go, I was devastated, because it was also said to be the last Lone Star Paracon that they were going to have in Texas. And what I do a lot of times whenever there's Paracons that are coming up, as hard as I try to, I know for a fact I can't go to every single one of them, because first of all, some of these Paracons happen the same weekend as others. And then two, some of them I just don't have any means of getting out there, unfortunately, as much as I really want to expand. But when it's a Paracon that I was originally supposed to go to, it's heartbreaking. And I avoid Facebook and social media because I know for a fact that during and after the Paracons, there's going to be pictures taken. And just seeing those pictures, it's just too upsetting for me, because, again, I'm not trying to look for attention, but it gives that, reaction for me of saying that I should be there right now. So it's just, that's why I just, and of course, it's not even just pictures. You have people post, paranormal investigators posting, saying, oh, we're so excited. We got this coming up. Can't wait to see everybody. And that, I'm not going to fault anyone or try to say that they're selfish at all. If anything, they should be happy that they're going. But it's upsetting on my part because I'm stuck at home.
Okay. We're just switching gears here, just kind of moving
Yeah,
along.
it's fine.
I want to talk about upsetting. Here we are. For those that may be watching this for the first time, this show is originating in Halifax, Nova Scotia, on the Atlantic coast of Canada, where we had some pretty significant weather this winter. We had a very bad winter. But what I've been watching recently, just within the last couple of weeks, I know there was a span of like almost a week where just horrific weather went through parts of the states. We're talking Tennessee, West Virginia, North Carolina, and I know, Nick, you were posting, post concerned about your paranormal brothers and sisters who lived in these states. Can you, and for people that are in the audience that live in those states, if anyone was a part of that devastating rash of storms that went through, please share. Nick, did anyone that you're close to go through any type of those storms, and did they reach out to you?
Yes, although most of it was more of me reaching out because in addition to posting and asking, those who were affected, particularly because among the hardest hits were Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas, and also the Carolinas too, and parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So pretty much a good portion of the southern states were really hit. Not only was I asking just to check in, but I even took it upon myself reaching out to those that were, I mean, obviously there's a lot of paranormal investigators, so I do feel bad that I can't reach out to everybody because, there's hundreds of us, in this community. So what I decided to do was just reach out to those, particularly in Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee, because they were among the states that were the worst affected. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten to reach out to most of. I reached out to a few in Tennessee. I haven't reached out to everybody, but I did reach out to those in Kentucky, especially because, yes, you had tornado warnings that occurred. You had flash flood warnings, and in particular, I'm going to throw this out because I'm very close to them. Are these two investigators that live in West Point, Kentucky, named Ernie and Denise Pack. They run Pac-Man Paranormal, and they also do investigations at a location called Fort Duffield. Ernie in particular had done live videos because they're right next to like where the Ohio River is, and you could clearly see when he does these live videos that the Ohio River is rising, and that gave me a lot of concern. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch them live when this was going on, but I was able to watch the back plays of them. And it literally looked like, even though that they're kind of up on a hillside, the water truly had risen, several feet, and it did at times get into their backyard. Unfortunately, though, for other residents, they were not as lucky. Some of these houses were completely flooded out. It displaced a lot of residents, and I was checking in almost every day, and I've been meaning to send them a message, but I have been giving my support for them. I've given my support again for other investigators throughout Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas. And, thankfully, I'm glad that most of them managed to get back to me. I still need, again, I reached out to more of those in Kentucky than Tennessee, but hopefully within another day or so. And again, I just have a very busy schedule. Hopefully when I have another day or so that I'm sparing, I'm going to check in with them. But just hearing that they were okay, or even if they were affected, by it, it was just such a relief knowing that, okay, I'm glad to hear you guys are okay. I'm sorry for what you're going through. Hopefully, I always send my prayers and support for them.
Have you, like you yourself have put out some pretty wild videos. What's your latest close call with the power of Mother Nature, Nick?
Surprisingly, things have actually been relatively quiet, during this time of the year, although that doesn't mean that we won't have them during, the early part of this year, because I've learned when it comes to certain storms, especially like, let's say, tornadoes in this case, the storm season never truly ends. It more or less does move around. So like in January and February, most of these severe storms usually affect the states along the Gulf of Mexico. In March, a lot of the storms then are usually affecting, including Illinois, but more closer to the Mississippi River area. And now here we are in April, which is not surprising of what's been happening. April outbreaks usually produce some of the most deadliest and devastating storm outbreaks. And so when a lot of these states these last few days were affected by the tornadoes and flash floods, that was not surprising to me at all.
Okay. Here's as I was preparing all these talking points, for me, it's just like the who, what, when, where, how, and why. That's how I base my talking points. And I something came to my mind, and I obviously wrote it down. And I want to ask you, and I want to ask the other paranormal investigators that are in here. Does it make sense if a structure, let's just say a building in Tennessee, West Virginia, one of these places that was just devastated, if there was a spirit in a structure that has been destroyed, what happens to that? What happens to that spirit? Where do they go? Like, what do they do when the building that they've haunted is now physically gone? Can someone explain if anything happens?
So contrary to popular belief, because there's this constant rumor that goes around that when a building is destroyed, the spirits are released and that area is no longer haunted. Well, that's not always the case. In fact, most of the time it's not. Even when a location is destroyed, the building may be gone, but that doesn't mean the spirit is gone or has left. So yeah, like what Robert just said in the chat, if it is a looper, they continue the same route. And Jeremy also said it depends on what the spirit is attached to. On multiple occasions, we see this a lot in the paranormal shows, especially when it comes to the residential locations where there may have been a building or some type of event that occurred, let's say 100 years ago. That location may be fully gone, but once they build a house or whatever on top of that area, the spirit activity will still remain or will resume, in other words, because some areas too will remain dormant for years.
Okay, that makes sense.
Nothing happens. And then once something is built on top of it, it starts up.
Okay. What's a looper? I kind of know, but explain it to me.
A looper basically is the best way I could describe it is, so there's different types of spirits out there, like where, you do have the chance, like you do have a way of communicating with the spirits, but there's also kind of a type of, the loopers are kind of more or less, there are spirits haunting a location, but in a way it's repeating an event. So you could see the spirits kind of reenacting what they went through in life, but you cannot communicate with them. In fact, one of the best pieces of evidence out there, I would say, this was almost 20 years ago. Yeah, it's a non-intelligent pre-recorded type, as Robert just said. It is one of the best pieces of evidence was actually happened to be no other than Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Take care, Joe. Thanks for tuning in. He's leaving. It was the Gettysburg battlefield where there was a family that was out during the evening hours. It was around 2006 or 2007 that this footage was shot. Certainly one of the best pieces of paranormal evidence to date. And you start seeing these figures moving around. Like, you can't see them at first too well, but they start becoming more frequent and they start becoming more clear. Next thing you know, you start seeing these what looks like soldiers on horseback. So there's even horses involved. And it's a compelling piece of footage. And not only did they capture it on film, they actually saw this with their own eyes. And because this was where the Battle of Gettysburg occurred, these were probably spirits that, in this case, again, that they cannot be communicated with, but was a repeat from one of the events during the Battle of Gettysburg. So what you see in that footage, it looks as it appears that you have soldiers literally approaching on horseback, ready for battle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, what a tragic loop to be stuck in.
It's probably, as I would say, that every now and then when it comes to those type of loopers, very briefly, we basically are seeing images of the past repeating itself, like almost like as if it was truly recorded on tape and being played for us in front of us. So it's one of the few times that we could really truly see into the past.
Interesting. One final thing, it's coming up on midnight here on the Atlantic coast. But one thing, and I want you to go into as much detail as possible about this because I find it quite fascinating and you're the perfect person to explain this. I want you to tell me and my audience about the Dust Bowl ballots and the April 1935. Like, we're coming up on the 100th anniversary of the deadly dust storms. One of the numbers that I found fascinating, this will be the last thing I say and then you can explain it, but 300,000 tons of topsoil was displaced in these storms. So what does it mean to you coming up on this 100th anniversary of these deadly dust storms?
It was actually, well, to start off with, it was actually the 90th anniversary. So 2035 will be the 100th anniversary.
2035, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's no big deal. So to me, when I think about the Dust Bowl era, which, by the way, that not only affected I only explained just that one day in particular, which was Black Sunday, April 14th, 1935. Not only did that affect particularly the Great Plains states, the 5 states I mentioned, but it also affected parts of, the Dakotas, and even part of Canada was also, because that's where some of the dust storms originated from. They came from that part of Canada. So when I think about it now and considering all the environmental issues that we're going through right now, like let's say with the global warming and climate change and whatnot, yes, that may be a completely different subject matter, but it's no different than what people back in the 1930s with the Dust Bowl had gone through, because people say that was a natural disaster, and to some degree, in fact, it was, but it was also in a way kind of man-made. It was man-made as a result of the way, I would say, just how we've treated the earth in general. I think the fact is that people always think, like, let's say planet Earth, but also with other planets out there, that there are these gigantic balls of rock that not all of them, obviously, and then others are made out of the gas giants, but the rock ones where they're supposed to support life and, give us all these natural resources. When you really think about it, because all these planets, just like people, animals, and plants, and everything else in between, were originally born from something, and planets are no exception. So when you really think about it, planets are basically living beings and entities themselves. They have a mind of their own. And I think much like, let's say, if you got into like an altercation or had some problem with somebody, it's going to piss them off, obviously. Or if you treat them bad. Same thing really when you think about it with the earth. I think in some way that if you treat the earth or any other planet with, selfishness, it's going to fight back. It's really that kind of thing where, in other words, you don't play with snakes and not expect to get bit. So I think in some way when it comes to like the Dust Bowl, and also with a lot of the disasters that have been occurring because of the global warming, climate change, and not only that, also like even other types of mistreatment, like let's say pollution and whatnot. This is probably the earth fighting back, basically. And Jeremy mentioned about the earthquakes too. As much, I'm not trying to sound cruel, as much as I hate to say it, some of these disasters, I would say, as I would describe it, is like divine punishment to punish us for what we've done to the earth, and this is its way of, retaliating, if that makes sense.
Yeah, your video was frozen, but your audio was still good. We heard everything you just said. There you go. No, that, like, when you, like, yeah, the climate is changing.
There we go.
Mother Earth doesn't need us, drilling in and doing all the horrible things that we do. So, you know, you look at the news lately. The weather is extreme. Like the weather is just extreme now.
Well, and when, as I mentioned, in this case with Black Sunday back in 1935, that dust storm was so devastating that people throughout the Great Plains states, obviously a lot of them sadly have passed away since, but if you watch documentaries and, survivor accounts, they all say the same thing. They truly thought the world was coming to an end. They thought, you would hear them say, my God, this must be the end of the world. And, just as I actually explained this to Jill in a comment, imagine if you were walking down a street out in the open country one day. It's nice and sunny out and whatnot. In fact, that's what it started off with April 14th. They actually thought the worst was over. It was actually a really nice day. It wasn't as hot as it had been for the last few years because of the droughts. And all of a sudden they see this giant boiling black cloud that is just barreling along the horizon and had a huge amount of colors in it, basically. So imagine just walking down the street and all of a sudden you start hearing this roar. A lot of people would first assume it was tornadoes because this was in the same states as Tornado Alley, Kansas, Missouri, Texas, and Nebraska, Oklahoma especially, as well as Kansas. It's going to be Colorado and Nebraska, and New Mexico. But once you see how big this thing in this rolling cloud comes towards you, I think it would be enough for anybody to assume that the world would be coming to an end. It, being several thousand feet up, several miles wide, I think anyone would think that way.
That would be a cause for concern.
Yeah, and the ballads that you mentioned, that was an event that even inspired famous Oklahoma country singer Woody Guthrie to write, who he was known for writing ballads and songs regarding the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. And he lived through that himself, and he even did a song for Black Sunday.
You know what? We will talk about everything that we just talked about. We'll talk about it in a little more depth for the radio program this weekend. Yeah,
absolutely.
If there, so we'll kind of cap it here as we get close to midnight here on the Atlantic coast. If there's any other things that you want to mention that you want people to know about Paranormal Investigation, if any of the people watching, I'll go through the comments. And I'll pluck out a few more things, and maybe we'll have a few more things to talk about for the radio show. We'll talk tomorrow, Nick, and we'll get that show up for Sunday.
That sounds good. I'm really looking forward to it. And as always, I appreciate you not only chatting with me tonight, but also appreciate you bringing me back on your show. So thank you very much for that.
You are welcome. This is the first time I've actually been on camera in the moment since the end of March, and this is the first time that I've done a split screen in, well, certainly this year. So thanks for being my first guest, for making it nice and easy, getting back into the groove.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. And honestly, it was good to be on camera again, because I was going to say, it's been like a year and a half, I think, or so that we done one. I think we did one last year, but it was definitely over a year ago.
Yeah. Okay, listen, I'm glad you could squeeze me in with all your other shows that you're doing. We'll talk tomorrow, Nick.